Hey guys, how you doing? This is Manga etc. and I'm here today to bring you the review for Vamp de la Soul manga chapter 25. So this chapter, funnily enough, only has one focal point, sorry, not vocal point, focal point, and we spend the entirety of the chapter with the final boss. So obviously we got into the battle with the final boss at the end of volume 3 really, because Inkra was the one who kicks things off trying to take out MK2. Last review I was saying M2K, and I think that has a bit of a ring to it. So if I ever say M2K instead of MK2, you know who I'm referring to. So like I said, one focal point for this chapter, and that's the battle with the final boss. And it really just goes like this. Basically, we start off with what I call a little tug of war between Nick and MK2, and it's during this point of the chapter rather, I came across two things that just made me start to think. The first thing was when how MK2 basically says, yeah, cool, I got some weaponized zombies, they're gonna go in and attack now, I don't need to worry about them, I'm dead. I'm gonna revisit that point later on within the end of this video. And then the second thought that came to me is when during the tug of war between Nick and MK2, MK2 uses ruins, and now this is not a problem, so to say. It just kind of bugs me and annoys me a little bit, and I will touch upon it just a little bit now, but I think I'm gonna do a kind of a full do another video where I go into it more in depth. So just for the sake of this review, I'm gonna say this: because having now runes adds something to the battle system of VTLS. And what I mean by the battle system is that what can take place in any fight in VTLS because of a character's abilities, just the abilities, and I guess weaponry of the VTLS world, sorry. We have now added ruins to it, and I feel like the battle system is a mess because there is so much, at least I feel, this is how I feel, there is so much capabilities of just any character, and I feel like we're getting little bits and pieces of what each of these things can do, but it's not really fleshed out and touched upon. And I understand and I recognize that James is kind of working on this by trying to explain it in different parts of the manga, and probably just like other stuff as well, just kind of off-screen stuff. And I don't want to get into it too in depth right now because I'm gonna talk about it more in a separate video. But I do feel like it's messy to add something else into the mix, which is the ruins in this chapter. But what we do learn about ruins within this chapter is that they can nullify, and there was something else. Oh, it was not repel. Nullify and counter, I think it was magic. So fair enough for that. If that's what it does, that's what it does. So after that, we kind of flick to the adults, and now what I mean by that is that basically the kiddies are leading the charge in this fight. And I don't know about you, but I personally feel like, okay, fair enough, kids will be kids. They're rash, they're bold, they get excited, they do irrational things, so that's why they jump forward. Fair enough. But why are the adults holding back or not playing into the thing? And that's what I was thinking last chapter, and we kind of get an answer for why they're doing it within this chapter. Don't get me wrong, some of them are helping. We got Billy Jeans, he seems to be on the front line. We got, I think his name's Enigma, the cyborg. He's providing cover from the distance. Yes, James, I see you. Very nice. But we do have James and Einstein pretty much just there, just chilling. And James says himself, you know, like, yo, why are we hiding? He goes to Einstein, like, why are we hiding? And now the explanation that Einstein gives, he's like, yeah, we would be a hindrance basically to help out. I don't buy it. they they're like the vets of the VTLS world. They shouldn't be a hindrance. They should be more of a hindrance than Nick and Kaz on the front line. It makes more sense to put them on the front line. You can't help them. I'm not buying it. Like I get their excuse, but nah, I'm not buying it as well. Einstein, James, the Cyborg, Dragon Mistress is there as well. They should be leading the charge. We shouldn't have a thing where Nick is on the front lines grappling with M2K. I want to say M2K, but MK2. Yeah, so I personally just did not buy the excuse at all. I weren't I weren't feeling it as well at all. So after that, we basically have Kaz hop into the fray to try and help save. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say. I'm trying to save Nick. So before, we had the whole thing with how what's his name, M2K, MK2, whatever, employing the weaponized zombies, and they said they won't trouble him because he's dead. I know to address something again later on. But what it did get me thinking about is how, okay, cool, Nick is half dead. He's a vampire. He's half dead. So shouldn't he have some immunity to the weaponized zombies? Shouldn't they bother him a bit less? Maybe I thought maybe even bypass him because he's half dead. That's just a thought I had. I don't know how half dead works. So, but it's just a thought that I had. But back to Kaz hopping in there to help his friend. She's getting pretty mad. Understandable. You want to protect your friends. I get that bit. And she goes in to help, and she transforms back into her. I forgot what the armor is called, but the armor we saw in her fight. She goes back into that to help try to battle MK2. And now, again, this is where something that happened. There's not a big problem. Don't get me wrong, but it's just thoughts that I had while reading the chapter. So there's a bit where she hops in there, and MK2 goes to her. Oh, I thought you was the smart one. And now, why that bugs me is because I just got to thinking, would he know that? We as the audience know that. We've seen Kaz for a while. We know she's all tech based. We've seen bits of her backstory. We know that she built the ink android thingy that helped with the training back then. We know she's techie. We know she's smart. But would MK2 know that? Because I personally feel like he wouldn't. So I feel like that whole line was out of place, and it's just something. It's a very small problem. I can recognize that, but it just bugged me a little bit, and I just wish it wasn't there, because I feel like when James wrote that line in particular, he was thinking, he writes with the knowledge that he knows everything, where he needs to remember, okay, cool, this character would not know certain things of information, and maybe they wouldn't say these kind of things. I think James needs to think about that just a little bit more when he's writing for his characters, because I personally feel like M2K wouldn't know that. I know he's a bounty hunter. I know he's about getting this information, but I feel like when it comes to Kaz, the younger generation, yeah, you may be able to find out bits and pieces about them, but stuff like that, I don't think so. That might be just me overthinking it, but that's how I feel. So she hops in there, she tries to help, and surprisingly cuts his head off, which leads to a reveal that no, this wasn't his true body. And then the true body comes through and then rips off Kaz's arms. And now I personally do not think, and this is maybe because Kaz is the main character. Because Kaz is the main character, and also because she's kind of expressed the not want to be like a cyborg, because if it was the case that she did truly lose her arms, then there's no way in hell she's staying armless for the rest of the series. So she would get like, you know, robot parts to replace her arms, therefore making her a cyborg. So it's because she's the main character and because she's personally expressed not to want to be a cyborg, I feel like she hasn't lost her arms. We have seen illusion stuff within VTS before, so I think that something like that has gone down, and in all honesty, Kaz has not lost her arms. It was a very nice cliffhanger to leave a chapter on, because I was like, whoa, let me read the next chapter straight away. But I didn't, but I held it down. But yeah, it was a very nice way to leave a chapter off. But in all honesty, I do not think Kaz has lost her arms. I feel like some sort of illusion has gone down and will be rectified, you know, because I cannot see James going down the cyborg route for Kaz. I just don't see it at all. But the last thing I want to say pretty much about this chapter is how MK2's truthful. Because at first I wasn't sure what was going on. I thought, okay, did somebody else appear and attack? But if you look at what this person, just in case it's not him, says before ripping off Kaz's arm, apparently, it's a kind of a continuation of the last thing we definitely know that MK2 said. So I do believe that it's him, but that's besides the point, him or not. If it is him, I thought that I had to myself was, for someone who said they were dead, they look pretty lively. That looks like a fully fleshed, living human being. So I was kind of confused by that. So we'll see. Obviously, answers will follow within the next chapter or the next couple of chapters. So I feel like that will be answered. But it's just a thoughts that came to me as I was reading the chapter. So kind of the last things I want to say about this chapter. One thing more about MK2. There was a bit in the chapter where he's like, do you know what, just forget the contract. I'm just going to kill you. And I like that because it adds on to what we were seeing from him in the last chapter, where I basically called him an agent of chaos. We get to see more of the agent of chaos feel. And I feel like this is making MK2 more of an enjoyable character. So when he was like, yeah, forget the contract, I'm just going to kill you, I was like, yeah, I was loving that. So yeah, it was nice to just see a bit more character from MK2, because like personally, like I said previously, I said that how he just seemed like the businessman before. Like any interaction we had with him before, he just seemed like the businessman. Now we're seeing like more from him, so I like that. And the last thing I want to say is that I'm quite happy with the fact that how even together Naz, wow, sorry, wrong series. Kaz and Nick are having a very hard time dealing with MK2, because rightly so, because MK2, I don't know how long he's been around, but at least from the 1930s, and VTLS takes place in 2010. We're currently in 2010. Depending on Nick's birthday, we might not be in 2010 anymore. We might be in 2011. But yeah, roughly. So we know that MK2's been around a long time, so he should have experience with fighting and that kind of stuff as well. So it's just rightly so that Nick and Kaz should lose a fight to him. So I'm happy that's the route that's being taken, and it's not a thing where because of plot armor, as we call it, they're not getting the upper hand. So that's everything I got to say about this chapter. The pacing is good. We have one focus, and we have one focus, like I said previously, and I feel like we are not wasting time in that, because time and the place that we are at, we could easily have dragged this out. Maybe have more of the weaponized zombie interactions, or yeah, I think that would be the most realistic way you could have dragged this chapter out without it feeling forced. But yeah, I feel like the pacing is good and we are moving at a very good pace, similar to last chapter. So I don't believe that this chapter should get anything more than a 3-star rating, so that's where we'll leave it at. Like always, guys, I'm asking for your thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, but most importantly, take care, have a nice day.